Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Trans people are deluded. They and their supporters firmly believe that if a man puts on a dress, puts on a bit of lipstick, calls himself by a lady's name, he somehow magically becomes a woman. This is not the case, of course. Biology, biochemistry, physiology, there's so many different ologies and things that say, no, you're just a man in a dress with some makeup and an ill-chosen name. Now, many people say this. I say it. Lots of people say it. But in particular is a Nobel Prize winning biologist. So she should know. Let's look at the article. This is madness. Nobel laureate suggests trans ideologues missed basic biology class. And then we have a picture of a couple of people who need serious psychological help with their delusions. Transgenderism advocates who claim that there are more than two sexes may have missed basic biology classes, a Nobel laureate has suggested. There are only two sexes, and those who believe otherwise have missed basic classes in biology, a Nobel laureate, Nüsslein-Volhard, has claimed. The accomplished German scientist who won the 1995 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for her study of early embryonic development made the comments ahead of the country's government pushing for legislation that will allow those over the age of 14 to change their legal gender without medical approval, a move that she slammed as madness and without any psychological or psychiatric indications that this is a thing. It can be simply a 14-year-old falls out with their parents and went, right, that's it, I'm going to be a boy now, or I'm going to be a girl now, and just simply does it legally there and then and without consultation. And it could be that a woman suddenly doesn't have a son and now has a daughter. How's that going to play out in the real world? In an interview conducted with the feminist magazine Emma, Nüsslein-Volhard denounced any notion that there could be more than two sexes, because in humans there's not. As well as suggestions that it was possible for someone to change their gender or sex via surgery or legal routes. Says there are people who want to change their gender, but they can't do it. You remain XY or XX, the award-winning scientist told the publication. The medical expert also denounced those looking to use hermaphrodites or other edge cases to justify gender ideology, with Nüsslein-Volhard emphasising that even in these cases, individuals show characteristics of one or both binary sexes, because there are only two sexes. Intersexuality is caused by a very rare deviation, for example in the chromosome set, she said, but intersex people also have characteristics of both genders. They are not a third gender. And that's because the genes form both male and female, but not a third set of, I don't know how you put it, sort of a third set of differential Ghoulism or something. I don't know. Nüsslein-Volhard also attacked the practice of giving hormones to people looking to switch gender, with the Nobel laureate claiming that the administration of such drugs over long periods of time was, in her view, likely to result in negative side effects for the user. Now, we know that there is a massive, how can we put this, regret. It's something like 90% of people who switch gender regret it, because the problem they have isn't physical. As we've said many times, the problem they have is a mental condition, and they think, oh, by changing this or that or the other physically, it will cure my mental problem. No, it won't. These people are deeply, deeply troubled and deeply, deeply sad, and you can't cure sadness by hacking bits off or putting bits on. And so the problems remain, and they end up being depressed and self-ending at horrifically high rates. But it's mainly because of their mental problems, not their physical ones. The Nobel laureate also took aim at Germany's so-called queer commissioner, who claimed that saying there are only two genders is unscientific, and that the truth is there are many genders. Now, remember that this woman that's saying this is a Nobel Prize winning biologist. So when she says, no, there's only two genders, there's only two sexes, she's got more authority to say that than some queer commissioner who is pushing an agenda. Who do you believe? This is unscientific, Nüsslein-Volhard reportedly explained in response to this claim of there being more than two genders. Perhaps Herr Lehmann missed a basic course in biology. All mammals have two sexes, and man is a mammal. Nevertheless, the Nobel Prize winner's criticisms are not likely to change the pro-transgenderism stance of the German government, which appears adamant that children as young as 14 will be able to change their legal gender without medical consultation. This is the mad German government that gave up energy independence because it thought it was a fairly good idea. You must not trust these people. They are morons, and you should never let morons make policy. Trouble is, the German people keep voting them in. While political bigwigs, they haven't got any bigwigs in Germany, they've got airheads. So while political airheads have denounced the current regime of requiring medical input to change gender as degrading, now think about that. You want to change gender, will you go and see someone medically about the problem? No, that's degrading. Yes, you're right. The problem is, as I've said before, it isn't a physical problem, it's a mental problem. And it may not be transgenderism. It may have been inappropriate raising as a child. It may be grief. It may be, shall we say, some form of abuse. We also have to look at the pressure of girls wanting to be boys, because 14-year-old girls get very unhappy and see the success that boys are having and look at the pressures that girls have. And they'll have the boobies cut off. They'll have everything ripped out. They'll take these drugs. They'll change this and that and the other. And then they get to about 18, 19 and realise, actually, I wasn't transgender. I was just depressed. And now they've got a lot more to be depressed about. And that is why the self-ending rate is so high, particularly amongst girls. Anyway, so going back to what I said, this change gender is degrading. One politician lambasting it as treating those affected as if they are sick. They are sick. They are mentally ill. Transgenderism, and this is actually a mental condition. Ask any psychiatrist. It's in the DSM-4, and it is a notifiable mental condition. It is mental illness. So for these politicians to say that it's not a sickness, just shows how out of touch these politicians. Now, remember, politicians, not trained medical people, and they're the ones saying it's not a sickness, and yet the medical people are saying, yeah, it really is. Look, we have a book that proves this. We have studies that prove this. We have hundreds and hundreds of PhDs that say yes. But the politicians, they don't have anything and say no because they're morons. This is madness, said Nüsslein-Volhard. At 14, many girls are unhappy in puberty. I just mentioned this. She said, I know that myself. I was also unhappy at 14 and preferred to be a boy. I wasn't even allowed to wear pants or cut my hair back then. But then you have to find a way to assert yourself, and that's what you advise girls to do. And you have to support them with that, she went on to say. Yeah, rather than whipping them straight down, having the boobs cut off and having chemicals pumped into their bodies to destroy any chance they will ever have of having children. So, well done, Germany. You are now legally allowing 14-year-old children to destroy their futures, to sterilise themselves, and all done without even seeing a doctor, because you have fallen for this sick trans religion, one could almost call it. It's wrong and it is disgusting. I hope you get sued in years to come. I hope every politician who signs off on this gets sued in years to come. Anyway, I'm going to come up now and round off. So who do we believe? Mad, deluded people with an agenda to push. They're mad, deluded supporters who are helping them to push the agenda. Or the Queer Commissioner of Germany, a gay politician who thinks he knows everything about trans issues because he's not a trans, but is simply a gay man. Or do we listen to a scientist with a PhD and a Nobel Prize? Who's the expert in such matters? Who should we believe? Well, we believe our own eyes and our own experiences. There are only two sexes. Everything else is madness. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notification of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't believe in third ways, and goodbye.